Yo, 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 what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. We've got 3 Game 3s to get into, so I'm not going to kind of hang around too much before then, but I do want to ask y'all to please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. I'm trying to hit 10K before the end of the playoffs, and you subscribing would go a long way if you aren't already subscribed, so I appreciate it. Gonna go ahead and start off with the Mavericks Jazz Game 3. Heading into this one for me, this was a must-win for the Utah Jazz. You already having it a 1-1 series heading back to Utah without Luka Doncic on the Mavs side is bad enough. This is a series that I've said many times on this channel I feel like is maybe the nightmare matchup for the Utah Jazz. The perimeter threats with Dallas, the inability of the Jazz to stop anyone on the perimeter, alongside with them, their best skill being three-point shooting and the Mavericks having a great three-point defense. To me, it felt like a nightmare matchup, and with a healthy Luka Doncic, to me, this thing would be over in 5. And you know what? Without Luka, it's looking like it's probably going to be over in 5 anyways, because up to this point, the Jazz have shown me absolutely nothing that shows that when Luka comes back, which, spoiler alert, he's supposed to come back for next game, they will put up no resistance. With Luka Doncic, I think the Mavericks are just going to blow out the Jazz in 2 straight games. This season's over, and you know, their history as a core is probably done, because to me, this feels like a monumental loss looming. If they don't make it out of this playoff series, if they don't turn around something huge, Donovan, Rudy, or even both of them are going to be gone in this offseason. I don't see there's any way that they're happy with what they did, that they come back. This core feels like it's reached its ceiling without major acquisitions. You're stuck with Mike Conley's money. Bojan Bogdanovic is making a lot of money. Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell. It's not working. This team needs some new life. It needs something changed, and I would not be surprised if one or both of those guys are gone or request trades, because this is terrible. This is a horrible loss that really kind of sets you back years, because last year the Jazz were the 1 seed, and I was a defender of the Utah Jazz. I will admit that. Last year as the 1 seed, I thought they had a good shot to make it to the Western Conference Finals, and they did. Last year was their best chance to win a championship, because the Clippers were weaker, the Lakers weren't healthy with LeBron James being out of the equation. Of course, they then again weren't good this year, but there were just so many different situations. Like the Nuggets were without Jamal Murray, who were a huge threat heading into the playoffs. It was a pretty beat up year, and they had a good shot getting the Clippers in that second round, having the opportunity to go in there and beat up on a team without Kawhi Leonard after the first few games. They had a real shot, and they blew it. They lost in 6 games. And it was in embarrassing fashion in Game 6, getting lit up by Terrence Mann, who's a great player and all, but letting him drop over 30 points on what was supposed to be the best defense in the league, it's not a good look. And so heading into this year, I still thought they could do it. You know, I was lower on them than I was last year, but I was like, maybe the Jazz put it together. They were doing all right at first. It really fell off in the second half of the season, all the rumors about the tension. And heading into this series, I had no confidence in them at all, and that has plummeted to 0. Like, it was maybe at like 15, 20 at most. It is a complete 0. I don't think this series goes more than 6 games. And to be honest, if Luka comes back and looks anything like the Luka of old, I'd be surprised if it goes 6. I'm so disappointed in this Utah Jazz team. They're just not good. They can't stop anything. It's a turnstile on the perimeter. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, this is a really solid tandem, and they're not putting things together. Those role players are not doing well. There are so many changes that need to be made. I wouldn't be surprised if Quinn Snyder loses his job in the offseason, but to me, the way that they're playing right now, this feels like a monumental moment for this Jazz core. They had that first year with Donovan Mitchell as a rookie where they beat OKC. Trust me, I remember that one a lot, and they were great. It looked like things were they were like rising up, and then you had that series against the Nuggets where they went up 3-1 and then blew it, and you know, it was like, oh, the Jazz will be back, like they still have Donovan Mitchell. And then last year, the 1 seed, like, oh my god, they're here, they choked. They've done it in the past. They're doing it again. I'm not surprised. At this point, I've been a defender of the Jazz for a while. At this point, I'm just kind of exhausted. I'm disappointed. And to me, this feels like the end. For the core as we know it, I don't think anyone is surprised. I don't think that's a hot take. To me, I think it's a lot more likely that Gobert is gone than Donovan Mitchell. I think the Jazz do everything in their power to keep Donovan Mitchell. But who knows? With the way things are going now, I wouldn't be surprised if one or both of them asks out, and I think we're in for a really crazy offseason in Utah. Of course, I'm saying this while the series is still 2-1, but there has been nothing that the Jazz have shown me that shows that they're going to be capable of winning this series. There are just too many fundamental flaws with their team when you compare it to the Dallas Mavericks team. Like Jalen Brunson lighting them up again for 31, Dinwiddie with 25 and 6. Maxi Kleber has looked like Klay Thompson against them. Josh Green had 12. Davis Bertans, who's been terrible this year, had 15 points in 14 minutes. There's nothing they can do. They're just not good. Beyond that game, when we want to talk about more disappointing teams, let's talk about the Timberwolves, which is weird to say, of course, for a 7 seed going up against a 2 seed in the Grizzlies, who've been great all season. But in this game, the Timberwolves were up by 20, not once, but 2 times. They were up by, I believe, 26 was their biggest lead in this one. In the second quarter, they let the Grizzlies come back, and then they re-established a 20-point lead in the third quarter. And you know what happened in the fourth quarter? They got outscored 37-9. Really, it's 37-12, but the only reason they hit 12 was because the Grizzlies gave them a wide open 3-pointer at the end because they didn't care. So I'm going to go with 37-9, 37-12, whatever you want to say. And you know, it's a really fun stat. As a Thunder fan, of course, I'm going to bring up Thunder stuff, but against the Memphis Grizzlies, you might remember the Thunder lost by 73 points earlier this season to the Memphis Grizzlies. Tonight, the Timberwolves lost a quarter by 25 points to the Grizzlies. You know who didn't lose a quarter by that much? The Thunder, when they lost by 73 points. The largest loss margin in NBA history, and the Thunder never lost a quarter by that much. That's how bad the Timberwolves were. And the Grizzlies weren't even doing anything crazy, like 37 is a lot of points in a quarter, but the Timberwolves just couldn't make shots. They knocked down like 3 threes, this thing's tied. It's not like they had to have a crazy performance or make a big comeback. They blew 2 20-point leads at home. It was embarrassing. It was terrible to watch. I felt like it was like the first half, Patrick Beverley was throwing self-lobs off the glass, laying it up and in. Like everything was going so well. And then there was that clip going around Twitter with Kat saying like, oh, they're in Minnesota now. And that was when they were up by like 20 some. And now, of course, you see what happened. It's a disaster. And I still don't think I'm not going to hate on this Timberwolves team as a team because they're, going up by 20 on the Grizzlies is a huge accomplishment in itself as a 7 seed, but you've got to close that out. And the craziest part of this thing was there was at one point, the Grizzlies went on a 21-0 run. Do you know how many timeouts were called during that run by head coach Chris Finch? Not a single one. 0. No timeouts over that course of time. We were just talking about in yesterday's video about Steve Nash not calling timeouts when the Nets were really struggling. Maybe he should have called one. Chris Finch was just literally sitting there vibing on the sideline, not doing anything. It was really shocking for a guy who I've come to really like as a coach. I understand trying to make your guys play through things, but hey, maybe when you get to 15-0, you're like, oh, maybe I should call a timeout. Maybe 16, 17, 18, you're like, wow, I really should. When the other team has scored 20 straight points and you have not scored, call a timeout. It took until they had a 21-0 run for him to call a timeout. That's not going to cut it. Taylor Jenkins has done a great job coaching in this series. Steven Adams, who has been huge for their success this season, did not play tonight. He made that adjustment immediately. After game 1, he's like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Last game, he played 3 minutes. This game, he played 0. Jaren Jackson Jr. only played 21. John Morant played 41 minutes. He had a 16, 10, and 10 triple-double. Desmond Bane was probably their best player in this game. He had 26 points in a stretch where he was just absolutely unstoppable. 20 from Brandon Clark, who's had a great season for them, and really, he's been phenomenal over these last couple of playoff games. Just all around a big team effort from the Grizzlies. And once again, the 2 teams I'm very disappointed in, the Utah Jazz, the Minnesota Timberwolves. It happens. In terms of that series, I picked Grizzlies in 6, so I'm not surprised that it's kind of seeming to it's going to go that way. But I just I really thought, I was like, wow, the Timberwolves are going to make this thing a real series going up 2-1 at home, and they didn't do it. Two blown 20-point leads is a lot. And finally, we had the Golden State Warriors facing off against the Denver Nuggets. I'm not going to say too much. This one was a lot closer than the last 2 games. But Golden State, man, I'm not going to lie, I was sleeping on them. Just a little bit coming into the playoffs. I, for some God knows why reason, thought this was going to be a 7-game series. The Warriors are just too good. They've really turned things on in the playoffs. I also was not, one thing to my credit, I wasn't sure if Steph was going to be back for game 1 at that point, so I will give myself credit on that one. But even still, this thing is going to be over in 4. The Warriors are going to sweep them. They're just by far the better team. And the Nuggets really did have a solid second half, outscoring them by 12 in the third quarter. It just, when it hits the fourth quarter, and especially when the Warriors put in that death lineup of Steph, Clay, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, there's nothing, the Nuggets couldn't do anything. They were getting so many wide open shots because they're so fast. I could watch the Warriors play offense and just move the ball around the court for 10 hours straight. It's just such beautiful basketball to watch. In terms of the Nuggets, it was the exact opposite. Jokic setting guys up, having to do pretty much everything for that team, and then them just kind of bricking shots. Jokic was phenomenal, and I'm sure people are still going to give him hate. We had 37, 18, and 5 on like 64% shooting. There's not much more you can ask of him. At the end of the game, he did have a turnover where Draymond Green bodied him up and plucked him, but that's just Draymond Green. Draymond Green, in my opinion, was on pace to win Defensive Player of the Year before he went out for the season. He's just one of the best defenders in the league, and I'm sure Jokic was exhausted at that point because he did literally everything. I'm sure some people are going to take that clip out of context and talk about, oh, Jokic choked, Jokic wasn't ready for the moment or whatever. MVP getting swept, it doesn't matter. Jokic is doing all he can. This Nuggets team just doesn't have enough help for him. Monte Morris, only 10 points. Monte Morris, I don't know why I said Monte Morris. What the hell did I just say? We're going to move on. Will Barton, 13 points. 6 points for Austin Rivers. 5 for Bones Highland. 5 for Bryn Forbes. Like, it's... No one else scored 20. You're not going to do much. And that's both a combination of the defense of the Warriors and the offense of the Nuggets, both being... The Warriors defense being really good, Nuggets offense being pretty bad. All in all, just the Warriors are just so much of a better team. I'm excited to see this team head forward in the next round, now up 3-0. Gonna go for the sweep, and I think they're gonna get it. So, those are my thoughts on the games from tonight. Let me know what your thoughts were in the comment section below. Once again, please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed and subscribe. We're going for 10K by the end of the playoffs. That is the ultimate goal. So if you want to help out, you know, that little red button should help you out real quick. But I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later. Real one, say it back.